So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all our beautiful viewers from around the globe, and welcome to another intimate conversation in this series. And today we have another guest, obviously, who is Juliette van Aken. And Juliette is in the Netherlands, in Holland. So welcome, welcome, welcome. And it's quite late in your evening over there. So
well, good morning to you anyway.
Thank you. Yeah. And welcome, Juliette.
Thank you.
So it's I'll just read your bio and introduce you to everybody. So Juliette, I grew up in Ghana and Zambia and immigrated to New Zealand in 1974 at the age of 5. I've lived in Kaukapakapa, Whangarei, in Torbay on the North Shore of Auckland and close to the university campus in Auckland Central. I went to Carmel College and in my 7th form year to Rangitito College in Mairangi Bay. I graduated from Auckland University with a Bachelor of Arts in Languages and English Literature. When I turned 21, I moved to Holland to continue my studies. In Holland, I graduated with a degree in art therapy. I've worked as an art therapist, manager, and coach within the health services and psychiatric care. I'm the mother of 2 very beautiful teenagers. I currently live in Holland and am self-employed, running my own practice and energy art studio. I'm currently exploring and creating a collaborative interspecies sound resonance field using sound, crystal consciousness, energy art, water consciousness, and plant consciousness. I regularly follow the call to specific places in nature and in different countries to make contact with ancient energy centers, ley lines and portals, still hidden doorways to the elemental worlds, the water, sea, lakes, brooks, moors, and rivers, cosmic access nodes, and parallel timelines. I've been clairvoyant since childhood. All during my life, I have further developed the openness to other dimensions and layers of consciousness. Wow, Juliette, that is amazing. I love the moving into nature, going where you're getting called to go. That's been me all my life. It's like, and the wows that turn up when you just follow that guidance and things.
Definitely.
So, yeah. I will get you to talk about that in a minute. But first of all, were you an awake child? Did you come in sort of awake to knowing yourself and knowing that you were more than this physical body?
Yes. Yeah. I was awake. So if I look back now, I suppose you could call them memories of knowing that I'm everything. So not really feeling any separation. And at an early age, I also remember that I was, I think it was another dimension or in a spaceship, or, I have a lot of memories about being in other places at other times and speaking with other sorts of beings. And I didn't actually talk about that at all. I didn't share it. I haven't shared it actually at all that much with my family. With friends I do. But yeah, I was awake. I was awake as a child. Yeah.
Yeah. And I get what you mean about not sharing. My 2 daughters, if I mention, anything about galactic beings, they're like,
yeah,
la, la.
God. Yeah, I know.
No, and it does sort of invoke fear in people. So, it does take, you just sort of got to, yeah.
Yeah, you have to sort of like be a little bit selective. And then sometimes I do sort of like talk about things, but I just use the terms that help people to understand instead of, because if I get right into the spiritual stuff, then people will probably sort of like look at you a bit sort of like, what are you talking about? But I think everybody can be reached with language if you speak from your heart and you're just open, and sometimes people are not ready, and then I don't push it or anything like that.
No.
But it's especially your own experiences, which were always a bit weird. I always felt like an alien, actually, because we lived in New Zealand, in Auckland, and I went to an all-girls school, with uniform and everything. And I just felt like an alien, because I just had another view on life than all my friends. So it was also a really lonely time for me. And I think for a lot of people who have had the same sort of experiences, it can be really lonely when you're growing up. Yeah.
It can be. And I get that, I remember you feeling like you're an alien, and that's that because we just don't seem to fit for a while. There's sort of this place you're sort of observing. I remember myself anyway, observing around me in life and what was playing out, but feeling almost like that, like I was an observer. I was playing out things, but I was still very much the observer. And I remember a few years back now, when I was living in a town just on the west of this, we're on the very, in Whangarei, we're on the very narrow end of that island, just on the west side rather, in Dargaville. And I remember I was walking along the side street, and then I stepped into the main street and went to step off the footpath and cross the street to the bank across the road. And the whole place there was this weird energy happened. And I felt like in that moment or moments after that, it felt like I just transported in. I was looking at this place as a whole new space to be in, and almost where am I? It was unreal. And then it all sort of came back again after a little minute, but it was like a couple of minutes of standing there just like in awe of, okay, where am I exactly?
Yeah, almost as if you like switch dimensions, you're in one space at one time, and then your consciousness goes to another space.
Yeah.
And then you're almost in two spaces at one time,
Yes. Yeah. It was. And I thought about that later on as like being the time traveler, just beamed in and you carry on your life, and make your life there and all that sort of thing. It was just weird. But that's
I think people who have been born, or at least, I think everybody has the openness when we're children and they're babies. And I think if it's your contract or your choice as a soul to come in and remain awake, and then you do have a lot of other perceptive abilities, which are still open. And I'm noticing now, if I look back, I really shut down, because when I was living in Zambia, we lived there till I was about 6. That was the first time I remember that I was contacted by, I think it was an earth being, an inner earth being, and the being told me, and I was very young, that I would forget for a while, but at some point I would awaken. And it actually happened. I did shut down because I had quite a few things that happened in my life which weren't nice, and I shut down. But now, because of these things, because of the things that are hard, the emotions, the things that you experience, if you allow that to come up, and you can just be with what's happened, and you can see it instead of go into it, become it.
Yes.
Then you start how do you say it, distancing yourself from the trauma, and you're able to look at it instead of thinking that you are it. And then slowly, for me anyway, my abilities started to come back, and my consciousness grew and grew. So it's a real journey.
It is, absolutely. Absolutely. And we are, often I'll say to clients, we're just there until we're not, you know, if we're whatever it might be, if it's you know, habits or patterns or programs that we're running, you know, and they get a little antsy that I'm still doing this, you know. Well, yes, you'll do it till you don't. It's all good. Just time is perfect, you know, and all of it. So it's just a matter of keep going, you know.
Keep going. And it's also about, and even I think for a lot of people, for me especially, is it's learning to love yourself, to really, because we build up this sort of like fake persona, which we, you know, that's how we act towards the outside world. That's how we manifest from that fake persona, which we aren't. And then at a certain point, that fake persona starts to crumble. And then we start, you know, judging ourselves. And I think, I mean, I used to do that. And one of the main things is that don't judge yourself, and be as mild and loving to yourself as you can. Because there's a shining light behind that fake persona, really, you know, that we all have. That wants to come out, and it wants to play, and it wants to explore, and it wants to manifest, and it wants to be.
Know? Absolutely. And that part's fun, you know, when you just allow it to unfold and to show you where you know, wherever, like you going into different places and you know, nature, and following those prompts. It's fun. You get led for sure.
Very much so.
Jacket off. It's very warm. We've got.
Well, I'm having a bit of a hot flush here too, so there's a lot of energy.
It's like, whoa, and it's just so muggy here at the moment. It's that humidity thing, you know. So tell me a little bit about, or us a little bit about, or as much as you like to tell us about your work with the, you know, in the mental health, doing your art. How you know, how did that all start? Like, you know, what did you learn from that, really?
When I graduated with a degree in art therapy, I first worked as a manager in what's it called, for elderly people. It was like a hospital for elderly people, and it was based on the anthroposophical ideas, you know, from Rudolf Steiner. So that was very holistic. So that was my first job as an art therapist, and I was able to. I had a lot of room to experiment. And I use my intuition a lot, you know, because I'm very intuitive. And after that, I went into the psychiatry. And I must say, I had a really good time working in psychiatry, but it was also very difficult, because nobody looked at the things, or looked at the people that came there from a holistic point of view. You know, a lot of people, of course, with depression, or with all sorts of, you know, more psychological problems, will be ranked, we rated, you know, you're autistic, or you're this, or you're that. So I worked quite a lot with people who were diagnosed with personality disorders. I worked with individuals and with groups, and I think one of the things that I just love, and that's why I'm very creative, is that using non-verbal methods, like, you know, working with all sorts of materials, creating, is also a way to help you to feel, because we're so in our mind, and that's actually where the sicknesses start, in the mind, you know. So if I go back and I pick up one of my memories, is that I had a huge room where I worked in with everything I needed as an art therapist. So it's like a Valhalla with all my materials and everything. And I had a new group of people who had been diagnosed with personality problems, ranging with also people, I think people had mild psychosis or depression, you know, with that too. And I I let them stand around a table, and they all had some clay in their hands. So everybody got a little clump of clay, red clay, and they didn't know each other. So they were all sort of like really shut off and very afraid, you know. So what I did was I asked them all to just connect with the clay and just start just kneading it, because clay is wonderful and it gets really warm because your hands warm the clay. And then I asked, you know, just let something unfold. You don't have to make anything, but just let something unfold. And then after a while, everybody had something, and then we sort of did like a constellation. Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that just came up. It was very intuitive. Like, let's do a constellation, and you know, put your little clay thing that you have, put it somewhere on the table where you feel it's safe. And maybe you want to go and put it next to somebody else, or so we did a constellation. And at that moment, I just noticed that people started to sigh and started to relax, and they started to open up, you know. So working with non-verbally is not only helping people to relax and to feel, but also energetically to connect with each other. And what I saw in the psychiatric hospital that I worked in is that, or at least the people I worked with, they were not crazy. Absolutely not. Highly sensitive, often people who are clairvoyant or have all sorts of experiences that they cannot place or have been told are bad, or have made to be frightened. So it was just so great to be able to help them to go back into their feeling body, connect with themselves, and also talk to them about these experiences, because nobody did that in psychiatry, and I did. And what I did get back from the especially the nurses who were there, that they really saw a lot of difference with certain patients, because I was so open with them about, you know, the other world, other dimensions, other ways of feeling. So yeah, I do believe that in Holland, at least, there is a shift to more holistic way of looking at people who have, like, for instance, psychiatric problems and psychological problems.
That's really wonderful. That's wonderful to know. There's a cat racing around here. She just jumped through. Wonderful to know that that's happening, because I mean, this is the time we're in now, isn't it, Juliette? You know, where things are really going to start shifting into whatever we want it to be, really. And I think, you know, it's getting exciting. I can feel more and more excitement brewing within me. Like, I was excited, but I wasn't feeling it. Now I'm feeling it.
There's something happened.
There's so much of that, you know, suppressive type of over the last 3 years. And now it's sort of like opening up more.
Wonderful. It's ramping up. It's really ramping up.
It is.
Exciting.
It's really great. And you know, I so agree with you in that. I mean, I have a lot of people that come in that, how would I put it? You know, it sort of comes down to clearing work, where they have been so open, and they've had some sort of energy come through and, you know, attached and that sort of thing, and it's created, because they've got very sort of distorted in here with the shift into awakening. You know, it's gone very quickly, and it's usually those ones that I find aren't balanced, they ungrounded. And I've been really blessed that people that have, you know, their family, friends, whoever it might have been they've been around at the time, have said, I know a lady that you can go and see. And if they hadn't have come in, they would have been in the ward, and they probably wouldn't have got out. You know, so I know exactly what you're saying. They're very sensitive. Most of them are very, very sensitive. and it's just in a very quick awakening that they just haven't got the balance of what's real, what isn't, what's really reality for me. And it just distorts a wee bit.
And it's also what I've seen with clients that I have, is that people who are highly sensitive often are not fully embodied.
No.
So they're actually their attention is very much in the frontal space. It's hanging out of, it's not fully embodied.
No.
And once we become fully embodied, we at least I experience this, is that I was very highly sensitive, but as I am embodying a lot more, I don't have the same sensitivities as I used to have.
No,
you know, I'm so full in myself, so I'm actually, my consciousness is filling my body.
Yes.
And that's what it's all about, is if we can accept our humanness, even if we feel like we're from somewhere else, even if we don't know where we're from or whatever, if we can accept our humanness and we can accept what this journey is, then we start to embody and we start to fill our body with our consciousness. And we become more and more present. And from that presence flows source, because source is what we are. And that's the flow that you know, what you were talking about, takes you intuitively to a place in nature where you need to be, and maybe need to make sounds, or that you intuitively need to say something to somebody, or, you know, so embodiment and accepting what we are, accepting ourselves, is very important. And that's how we guide each other, because for people who have walked the path already, you know, through all these emotional things, holding the path open for the people who are coming now. No, and there's a lot more people coming now.
There is, and it's going to be, I keep feeling next year, 2023, is going to be pretty massive.
Definitely.
Really big. And we're going to be required to be on call, because there's some big shakeups coming in. And good stuff. I mean, you know, for me it's great, because we're, you know, humanity's going to do another big jump. There's two that I'm getting for next year. And in saying that, I was told by an astrologer, or a friend of mine who looked at some astrology, saying that was it Pluto, is it, coming into Aquarius, which is, we're going into the Aquarian age. We're leaping in, and then there's a leap out, and then another leap in, and that's what the two shifts are, I can see. So that made sense too. But it's very interesting. And I think, you know, I look at all these young ones, and like, I've had mothers bring their children, young children in, that are just being outrageous in their behavior. And, you know, as soon as I've grounded them back into their body and sort of locked them in, they just change. Their whole attitude changes. They're loving rather than hating. You know, it's love instead of all this anger. And they just calm down. Very, very different. So it is the same for all of us. And I have to say, every single body that I've worked on, and that's thousands now over my time, on the healing table, working energetically with them, is that not one was in their body.
Exactly.
Not one of them were in their body properly. And with any pain or trauma, we just ping out. That's us. We don't want to feel it. Too much, too heavy. And I think when we first came in onto the planet this time too, you know, the energy was very dense. And we've lived in a very dense state. And that there was uncomfortable for all of our sensitives.
Definitely.
So none of us were in our body properly.
No, we weren't. No, and especially because there's such a very, very strong mental field. The mental field is so extremely strong on Earth at the moment, still.
Yes,
and,
gosh, yes.
And it's being, you know, it's being governed by all these institutions and trying to, you know, keep control, and under control is fear. So there's definitely a lot going to happen. I have the feeling that, and I don't really like the word that much, but that there's a lot of star seeds who are coming online. Like there's some people I've been making some soul drawings for. And recently I just got sort of a download message that one of my paintings, which has to do with the Sirius energy frequency, needs to go to them because it's going to help them in some way in activating certain qualities within their starseed DNA or their signature.
Right.
So we're helping each other, so I think that we're going to start activating each other too a lot more.
Definitely. I definitely am an activator. People come and see me, they get activated into whatever's their potential in that time. But very cool. It's a great, I mean, it just drives me. I love it. Like
it's exciting.
It was like, here we are, let's go.
We've been waiting for so long, and now finally, you can feel it. Oh
it's so cool. And like I say, just now, over the last, we've just had a really big shift over the last probably 2 weeks ago. In the last 2 weeks. And and I sat at Taupo because I was down the island, and I sat and they were rocking and rolling there for a minute. And I sat with her, and this new timeline had presented itself. The new Earth grid had set in, and when I asked her what was happening, she said, I'm just stretching, It wasn't anything too much. There's a lot of activity in the planet. And a lot of bases that are being built and have been built, and like there's actually hundreds of them, and they're like cities in the earth. And I mean, that's got to make a difference when they're drilling in there and they're doing all that. It's got to move her body. She's got to adjust to that.
We see what's happening in Hawaii with the volcano now, and a couple of years ago with Bali and the Ring of Fire. There's a lot happening, and it's funny because I was in New Zealand in the South Island in 2016, and I went to Doubtful Sound, and I must say, from all the places I've ever been to, Doubtful Sound, I had such a connection with Mother Earth there. It was just so palpable. So, her presence was like thick. It was just all the way around, and it's so wonderful to be able to be so connected to the earth and the elementals, and know that at some point all of mankind will be communicating with the earth, with the plants, with the animals. I mean, there's no other way. I mean, and I'm looking forward to that time, because it's very hard to explain to other people. If I say to somebody, well, I can feel things in nature, and I call them elementals, then people can't really understand. Even my partner, for instance, who's in Tasmania at the moment, he's having a wonderful time in Tassie, walking around. It's beautiful. It's just such pristine nature, but he can't feel what I feel. So I don't know. Sometimes I can't explain it, but it's so wonderful when people, even when there's small things, by just feeling presence in nature, So I think that there will come a time when a lot more people will start opening to extrasensory perception, which is in your body consciousness. So the more you come into your body, the more your body consciousness opens, and all these perceptive abilities which have been dormant are starting to open up.
And we are nature, we are that. So and I find it sad for people who have never seen a cow, never touched a lamb, or it's quite sad, but that is their life and their way. But yes, things are definitely opening up, and they're definitely lots and lots more awaking to the reality that's sort of themselves, their truth, whatever that might be. So tell me a little bit about the sound resonance field and this using sound crystal consciousness energy art, all of that yumminess.
For a very long time, I mean, I have painted and drawn since I was a young child. But for quite a long time, I have been making paintings which are sound paintings. And I mean, it's quite difficult to understand because, you know, you see a painting, okay, it's just paint. How could it be a sound? But it's like this one here.
I was just going to say, is that one behind? Because I can feel that.
Yeah. That's this one's the fluid consciousness, and this one's not. I have specific sound paintings. This is a portal, but I'm connected to sound, the sound fields, quantum sound fields, and for some reason, sounds come through in the holographic images that I channel into the paintings. So sound frequencies come through, and I'm actually working with a sound healer at the moment, and she creates audios, which she actually helps people with. And we are combining my portal paintings, my sound paintings, with her audios. And we're creating a sound resonance field where people can come and lie in, and where the heart what's the word for it? Heart coherence. Yeah, the heart coherence. I have to think in English.
Yeah.
All our hearts join together, and it's quite, I'm still finding it quite hard to explain because it's so metaphysical.
Yes, I get it.
And I'm sure that you have things like that too, you know, that what words do I use for that?
I know. Yeah. Exactly.
But it's also like, have you ever heard of Gary Cook in New Zealand?
Yeah.
Well, Gary works with you know, with that new device where you can put like he works a lot with the Ponamo, and you can actually hear the Ponamo singing.
Yes.
So that's sort of like an interspecies connection which he's making, right? Well, I'm doing the same with the sound fields, and I work with the dolphins and the whales. And the dolphins and whales, you know, are with their echolocation, but the sounds they make actually have a very deep effect energetically and on a frequency level on this in our cells, in our body, in our consciousness. So this is just a field that I'm exploring at the moment.
Yeah.
So art and crystals. You know, I have a crystal here, you know, selenite, and another one here. I always have a crystal with me. You know, even when I do a reading, I always have a crystal in my hand because they're just transmitters. You know, you get such clear information. So I'm really sort of like, I don't know whether you know you have the same, but all these qualities that you've developed over your life are coming together. So dance, sound, drawing, painting, all these modalities which used to be just you know, on their own are coming together, and we're starting to morph them and opening up other fields of experience, of perception, you know. So it's such an exciting time.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great stuff. I you know, quite often will sort of peruse the YouTube looking for meditations or, you know, something, and there's not really a lot of things out there. You know, there's honestly not a lot.
No.
I don't know, I might be missing it, but they're just not there. And I had also been thinking about doing some meditation stuff and putting it out there, but it's all time. But yeah, that sounds wonderful. And I mean, I know the benefits of sound, you know, that in healing work and moving our trauma, our parts and bits. You know, that's great.
Yeah. And sound really sort of like helps even if people just listen to you know, like toning, because I do a lot of toning, and I make recordings of tonings, and oftentimes there are tones like Maori, very old ancient Maori tones coming through, Aboriginal, especially those two, because I'm very linked to the Maori and the Aboriginal lineages. They come through, and it does do a lot with people. And even if they can't consciously say what it does, it's still activating in a remembrance, because in our etheric body is remembering what we are, remembering all the sorts of parallel lives we've had. And, it's like we're unpacking a really big bag of goodies.
It is. It is.
Isn't it? Yeah.
It's so fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm just, my hackers, bring it on, whatever I need to learn, see within myself, bring it on. I just love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was something else I was going to bring in there, now I've forgotten. The ancient energy centers and ley lines, portals, all that sort of thing. Like, have you got any sort of stories around all of that travel and excitement and journeys that you've been on?
Well, I think that in 2016, when I went to New Zealand, I hired a little camper van because I was living in Holland at the time.
Yeah.
I had a camper van, and I drove all the way down the North and South Island, and I just intuitively was called to certain places, and especially places with water. And I'd taken all my my drawing stuff with me, my little canvas boards and my pencils and paints and all that sort of thing. And I had no idea why I had to take it with me. But in every place that I went to, I had to work on a grid. And it was sort of like a painting, which was holographic, and it built itself up. So every time I sat somewhere where there was water, like a river or a lake, even at the glacier by Auraki, afterwards, or even there, I even spent some time there. I had to work on building that grid, which I was painting and I was drawing. And at a certain point, when I was I think it was in Picton, I went swimming with the dolphins. And that was a really amazing experience for me, because I just have such a love for dolphins and whales.
Yeah.
So that really opened a lot up, and even like dolphin language came into the grid that I was painting.
Yeah.
And at the same time, when I was traveling through Golden Bay, I did a really long walk all the way along Golden Bay and all the way along that coastline. And I met Tane, the god of the forest.
Yeah.
And he allowed me to speak with the stone people. And that was just really an amazing experience, and so humbling. And so, oh my God, it was just as if I walked into another dimension. I was the only one on that track, and it was a really beautiful summer day. And I think that the reason why there were no other people walking there was because I needed to experience this on my own. So a lot of the experiences that I had also were integrated in this grids that I was making.
Yeah.
And it's finally become, it's hanging up over there at the moment. It's a painting now. It's like a 2D painting, and it's called The Water I Am, because the water carries the I am codes.
Yes.
So it's a very deep holographic portal. And I know that a lot of my work are portals to the energetic realms, which have sent information through the artwork. So when people look at it, then they're activated.
Yes.
And it's just so great to be able to do that. Just what I usually say, I open my lid, or my what's it called, my ceiling, and I just allow it to come. I don't think, it just comes on its own.
Yes.
And it's just so great to be able to feel the messages that come through from, for instance, the dolphins, from the whales. It's just So that's also the interspecies connections that not many people are doing that yet, but that will come. That will start to grow on Earth, that we are connecting more and more to dolphins and whales anyway, because they are so close to us as mammals too, but they are such sentient beings.
Yes.
And by getting used to them, because they are also carry a lot of wisdom, we get used to other beings or other beings that are maybe not physical. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
yeah.
we're being very gradually nurtured into remembering that there are so many other life forms that we can communicate with.
Exactly. Yeah. I was going to say too, do you know about the little doorways in your crystals and how to go in, access?
No.
Oh, it's a great little thing to do, and oh my goodness, the energy and the knowledge that comes through, the wisdom. But if you just put your thumb, if you've got a crystal, and I haven't got one right here, but
I've got one here.
Yeah, and then you just work your thumb over it. You know, you sort of just work your thumb around it, and you'll come to a point where it stays in that place, and that's the doorway in. And so you're sort of asking intently for that doorway to show up, and then you just go in. You go into the crystal and sit in there, and manifesting and creating is just like wow. Honestly. And of course, because it's crystal clear, like you get this crystal clear clarity around the wisdom that comes through. It's just amazing. It's a nice little fun thing to do.
So you have your contact, your interspecies contact is also with crystals, then with crystal consciousness.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I used to, whenever I picked them up, if they needed clearing, my elbow, honestly, my arm and my elbow would just be so painful. And I used to think, oh my God, no, that one's not for me, you know. And then I clicked. Was one day the actual crystal said to me, "You're actually clearing this energy from me." So that was lovely to know.
Oh, well, just a little anecdote. And it's funny, I've got the crystal in my hand. I was in a crystal shop in Zutphen, which is where I live in Holland. It was, I think, about 10 years ago. And I was called to go to that shop. And I knew that there was a crystal calling me. And I couldn't find it. I was looking all over the place. And then suddenly in the corner of the shop, I saw a couple of drawers, you know, like a small cabinet with drawers. And, you know, it wasn't for the clients, but I just asked the lady from the shop, you know, is it all right if I have a look? Because there's something in there I need to look at. And she said, sure, you know, open that drawer. So I opened not the first one, the second one, the third drawer. And suddenly this crystal, this is like, it's a double crystal, jumped out at me. And this was the one that was calling me. And I work a lot with this crystal because it's such a beautiful crystal to come into presence.
Yes.
So it helps you to get right back into the I am, into staying in the now, being completely present with what is. Yeah. So we I mean, it's just so amazing that not only crystals, but people come onto your path exactly when you need some guidance, or to just walk a small bit of the way with you, or to give you a message, you know, all these synchronicities.
Absolutely. Do you know the Crystal Mountain here in down Auckland way?
I've been there.
First time I ever went, I just stepped in the foyer. And they had some really big, huge rose quartz and all sorts sitting at the door in that foyer part. And oh my goodness, my whole body, I just went into grief. It was just this grief. Oh my goodness, I had to get back out. I'm sitting out there and I'm like bawling. I had to try and, you know, go away from where because there were people there. And I felt like a twit, as you do sometimes when it's happening like that. You sort of think, oh my God, here we go. And what was happening was that it was, you know, they were just about the money. They had never cleansed. There wasn't a cleansing of any of this stuff. This place was chocker full of all these crystals that were almost, they were crying. They were just crying. It was horrible. Honestly, it was really yuck. So anyway, cleared out what I could and all of that, and just sort of got myself together again, and I could go in, but it wasn't nice. Just made me sort of think more about those sorts of shops too. And I've been into many crystal shops, and most of them are very beautiful, and they have just this gorgeous cleaning energy, you know, that just is clearing. But no, that was really sad.
And it really impacts you because you're so sensitive, and you can sort of like communicate with the energy and feel how full a crystal actually gets of all these energies, and then it can't do its work. It can't shine. It's actually a mirror for ourselves. If we get rid of full, then we can't shine either.
No. And down underneath, if you go down, there's an elevator you can go down into on the bottom floor, and they've got all these crystals in big huge crystals sitting in glass cabinet, and they're trying to give you the idea of how they are in the earth, and if you were mining them, this is what it'd look like. But they were the ones that were yelling. They were the ones that were really crying out because they were just dying in there.
I know. I know exactly how that feels. I mean, it's almost in every crystal shop that I come in, and even there's a crystal museum which is quite near to Zutphen where I live. I could almost not even go inside. So it was so terrible. You know. But it's.
I just wanted to get an axe and go around and break all the glass and break them out, you know, for freedom from the prison. Honestly, my mind, honestly, I really was. I was plotting outside.
Well, the funny thing is that a lot of people who would be hearing us talking about this would think, I mean, they're batty, aren't they? I mean, what the hell are they talking about? But but it's so normal. When you are able to sense other living sentient beings apart from yourself, then it's just becoming normal. You know what I mean? So
What I'm seeing just recently is timelines moving. So we've got a lot of shifting going on the planet, and these very sacred sites, you know, like from history, I'm saying, you know. A friend is a beautiful lady from here, is traveling through Greece, and she's been into Portugal and things at the moment, and putting up these photos of where she's been going. And every single photo, I'm seeing these waves of energy, and then these new codings coming through, and this laying down of this new grid. And as she's going through these spaces, she's actually helping to anchor that in. And it's just beautiful to watch. And that's what I was seeing when I stopped at Taupo, was the new, you know, ley line, new grids that were coming in and were anchoring in. It's just so beautiful. But what I got in those, particularly this one, it was an amphitheater in Greece, you know, the big stone, what's left of it. And I watched as this movement happened, and like you were saying, you know, I was activated into that space and by the photo. And what I was seeing and was receiving was that those who go there now, so like she'd gone in and that timeline was still in the old history. And so people walk onto that place, they feel the history, they get all the whatever it might be, traumas or whatever it might have been happening there. Now with these new timelines coming in, this new grid happening, they're not going to have that experience anymore. They're going in, and they're going to now be able to go in and have a new experience in it.
And that's also because the galactic part of ourselves is starting to open up. So that's been shut down for such a long time. And especially in these places, you know, which are where the new timelines are opening up, especially in these, like what you say in Greece, or maybe in Egypt and all these other places. it's opening up so that we can start remembering our multidimensional consciousness.
Yes,
and our galactic lineages, and where we are linked to, right back to source.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Sit down.
And it's actually also what's happening. What I'm finding is that the whole linearity of time is collapsing. So it's really like all these different timelines and dimensions. If you can see them like they're all like on top of each other, and they all like fall together in one point. So at one point we will be able to sort of like be aware in this now moment in all these different dimensions at the same time. But because we've been living in a linear time from A to Z, or from, with the past, present and future, I'm seeing that that's starting to collapse.
Yes.
And it's becoming a lot more that the future and the past is collapsing into the now.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what I can feel within myself.
Yeah.
That been in the space of just that neutrality really for a long time. I mean, it can still swing into whatever it might be.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
But I can come back to that space in a very in an instant, really, as soon as I recognize, that's what you're doing. Okay, come back here. And it's just so easy to do now. And the stuff that you don't need to do, like go into the dramas of it or the emotional of it, or it's interesting, and it's so freeing.
It is. Yeah. It's funny because the other day I just suddenly got this sort of like hit. I mean, you probably get them too sometimes, and I was thinking, oh, that's great. Do you know, I don't know whether you still have that in New Zealand, but it's called blue tack.
Yes.
It's like that blue putty stuff that you can hang things up with.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was just, I don't know why, I was just suddenly thinking about blue tack. Okay, well, tell me why am I thinking about this? Oh, okay. So I imagine that, it's just like a little life hack, right, for people who may be watching. Is if you find that your attention is being pulled away from the now, and you're getting like lost in say somebody's trauma, or you're getting lost in all sorts of things that are happening in the outside world. A little life hack is just to imagine that you're sitting on blue tack, right? Or you're standing on blue tack, because it's all sticky, and all you need to say is like, blue tack, I call my attention back. And then what that helps your body, because you're sitting on the blue tack, your body is on it, and you call your attention back. So if you say blue tack, I call my attention back, it will come back into the now. And I've been trying this out, and it really works.
So the blue tack's like an activator in a sense.
Yeah, it's an activator. Yeah.
It could be glue, or it could be chewing gum or something, but
it could be anything which is sticky, anything that's sticky. Use that just to help you to come back into the observer, and back into your body, back into grounding into your body. So using your imagination, you say like, okay, I'm sitting on blue tack, and oh my God, I've got all these emotions. Oh my God, and that person said that and that. Then you can just stop and remember, oh yeah, I'm sitting on blue tack, and okay, blue tack, I bring my attention back. And the blue tack actually helps you to bring your attention back into your body.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So give it a try. I mean, I've been trying it out, and it really works.
Yeah. It's great to have some, like everything's simple to me.
Yeah,
we make it very difficult, and we make it a struggle and all those things, but everything is really simple. And spirituality, or our growth, our evolution, it's really simple. We make it difficult, but we also tell a lot of story. Draws it all out, lengthens it out, and makes it something bigger than what it really is. And it's something very simple like that, like blue tack, that's great.
It's also, I think, what's changing is that our senses, our five senses, have been so conditioned to be, especially the eyes, looking at the frontal part of us. So the
Yes.
dorsal part of us is very dormant for most people, have no idea that there's a dorsal space behind us.
Yes.
There's space there. So that sort of small exercises, even when you're dancing, for instance, just even when you're sitting, is like a lot of people tend to lean forward, and then we lose our attention, and we lose our energy. Energy goes too much to the frontal space, into the mental field. And if you like sit back and you relax into the dorsal field here, you start sighing, you feel like you're being supported, and you don't have to work as hard.
Yes.
So it's also starting to realize that your body consciousness is not only here, but it's all around. It's a holograph. We are holographic.
Absolutely.
Right? All the way around. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And like just sitting here, I can see behind me, you come into that stuff, where you can actually, feel it all.
And that's your ancestors are, or your guides, or you feel supported because you have your consciousness, your awareness can feel what's behind there. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So important to bring all these different your spatial areas into your consciousness.
Yeah, it is. It is. Oh, it's so fun. And so you're coming out to New Zealand too in October of this next year, is that correct?
Yeah.
Around that time? Yeah.
Hopefully. Yeah. That's I have the feeling, let me say it like that. I have the feeling that I need to go back to New Zealand in October. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to it because I haven't been back for quite a while.
And that's to visit, Juliette, not shifting, like you're visiting and going back to the Northland? Yeah.
My brother and his family lives in Auckland, so I'll go and visit them, of course. And I know that I have to go to certain places in especially the South Island. But there is a chance that I might be coming back to New Zealand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. And so you hold classes, or what are you doing now? Sort of, you have clients come in and you've got a studio that you go to?
Yeah, I have a small art studio at home, and I do readings. So I do crystal readings, and I do online coaching and readings, spiritual readings for people.
Yeah.
Where what I do is I ask people a lot of questions, because everybody has the answers inside themselves. And if I tune into somebody, then often their higher self sends me questions to ask, or sends me symbols to work with, so that people can access their own answers, because we all have the answers in ourselves.
Yeah.
So I work with all different types of people. At the moment, a lot of people who are star seeds and are being activated are coming to me. And I have a couple of commissions to make soul drawings. I'm working on a couple of portals again, but they usually unfold not in a linear way. So I might be working on a portal now, but it won't be finished till next year. So every time I get a nudge to work on it, to change the grid on it, or to take it somewhere, and then it builds up. So those will probably be being used for something next year. So often I don't know why I am painting things and how long it's going to take.
Yeah.
I'm just going with the flow that comes through me. And I'm also enjoying my life at the same time.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And are you seeing things sort of opening up over in Holland more too, in connection to the last 3 years, like things are starting to open up and people are getting back to being in person, like actually enjoying space and time together?
Well, it's hard to say really, because I live in a town, Zutphen, which is very spiritual, one of the most spiritual places in Holland. So a lot of spiritual people, a lot of people offering all sorts of spiritual advice and that sort of thing. So the people that I meet and who I sort of like, who are in my timeline, are also people who are reasonably conscious and awake.
Mm-hmm.
I personally don't watch the news because I don't want to go into the fear, even though I do know what's happening, but I don't consciously watch the news. What I am seeing is, for instance, the whole COVID time, of course, was complete fearful and very much constricted. People were constricted and were very much putting people in, you're vaccinated, you're not, I'm afraid of you, all sorts of things played out. And I think that's maybe New Zealand the same. I mean, that's really sort of died down, sort of like really sort of like washed away, like a really big wave has like run out. I do have the feeling that there's been a lot of cleansing, because especially with the provincial government at the moment, it's really, really cold in Holland at the moment, and the gas prices are really high. So people on a minimum wage are really struggling. And I've noticed in the town that I live in anyway, that the local authorities are actually giving money to people a lot more easily. There's something freeing up. There's a lot more heart energy happening, and it might not be that visible at the moment, but there is something happening. So there's a lot more. The heart is opening. And this is what's been happening the last, I think, since the COVID time has broken something open, so that the compassion for each other can start flowing through. I can't pinpoint many things, I must say, because I think you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I understand that, but it's like the same here for me. I can't sort of pinpoint a lot, but there's a definite change of the stillness. If you feel into the stillness, it feels different, sounds different, and it really is more hearted. And that's what I'm seeing starting to flow through. Many of the what was stuck is now sort of moving. We've got a lot of movement.
And that's why a lot of people are coming. A lot of people who have not yet felt the trauma in their bodies are starting to feel this, and that's why there's a lot of things happening in the world. A lot of division, because people are starting to feel things which they have never wanted to feel or have been able to feel. So there's a lot of clearing happening at the same time. So there's people awakening, there's clearing. It's just one big melting pot of swirling energy that's really sort of being mixed up again, and it's chaos. It's really sort of chaotic time.
And I don't know about your world, but in my personal life, it's like a revolving door. It's like I'm in this revolving door, and it's like I get a glimpse of a space that I could just sort of go in, and then next minute I'm off again, and there's something. It's like, wow. And truly, there was a time there, now sort of starting to settle a bit, even though it's still full on movement and there's lots going on. And but it's like there's something that's like, before it was like that, and it was just, even to try and keep your head in the game and keep up with it all was like, it's too busy, too much. I didn't have any capacity for anyone really. It was like I had to just be me and mine. And now there's this definite opening where it's more gentle, it's calmer, even though it's busy and quick. It's got a calmer feel to it. I can feel a shift in me that's shifted that whole thing.
I have the feeling that what you're talking about has also to do with, I mean, it sounds a bit corny, but it's that the divine feminine energies are
totally,
the intuitive, the more because the divine masculine is a container, and a divine feminine is one that sort of like dances and creates and is soft. And so I think that these energies are starting to work with each other and sort of like more within people.
Yes, definitely.
That's really exciting too.
Yeah, it is very exciting. And things like you're saying about the Netherlands opening up in the sense of more alternative coming into those sort of, stayed, structured, old energy states. Gosh. Which we've been wanting to happen all our life, basically, is now happening. You can see it's all starting to merge, and everything has its place. And it can all merge and be wonderful if we allow it to happen. Which is a lot of people now are. It's wonderful.
Well, I think that we're coming into a time where, and I'm just hearing this now. It's not. It's called the Aquarian time, and it's a time which is becoming fluid. So our consciousness and our way of being is becoming a lot more fluid too. So it's a completely different type of experience than, say, 50 years ago, in the time of our parents, or even before then. Just completely, it's like a complete upgrade.
Yeah, it is definitely that. And it was there was a point in there not too far back, really, where I was a little concerned. I thought, gosh, we're just this far off getting over that, or we're that far from not, and it was like, gosh, there's just this very fine line. And I was sort of losing a wee bit of hope for a while back there. And then just this, now it's like, wow, there's no way that I can doubt what's going on, and that we are really making a difference. It's happening.
Yeah. And there's so many like upgrades and light energy coming through and washing over the earth and we're being helped in so many ways. So it's just a wonderful time to be alive. And sometimes for people it's not, of course, because the things coming up that need to be seen. Attachments, we have so many attachments to things that we are being asked to let go of, old attachments. So it's all about really having compassion for yourself, but for other people. I'm still learning that, because I think that's one of the things that my lessons is self-love. And if I can have compassion for everything in myself, then I have compassion for the other person or the other, because there's actually no difference. But I'm still human, so I still find it sometimes hard to have compassion for myself, and I still judge. So there's still things I'm still learning at the same time.
As we all are.
Fine-tuning.
It is fine-tuning. And what I'm feeling within myself and noticing is that fine-tuning's easier now. It's like there's less of it. And and the letting go is easier in many ways.
Thank goodness.
I know. Thank goodness. And it just
it was really hard work. It was really, the last 12 years has been really hard work. We have been ploughing away, through all these traumas and everything, and feeling. And now finally, just what you said, it just feels like it's going a lot more with ease and grace. Totally. It's a lot easier to come back into present,
Yeah, it is. And like I was saying, about the reason and bringing in these intimate conversations was about highlighting the pioneers, bringing in the pioneers that have held this light and held this field for so long. And we gave up so much to do this. We've been, felt like we'd sacrificed our lives to do this and be here in this time. But it actually isn't like that. We made a choice and that was all good. But, we go into a bit of story.
Of course.
For me, look what I've sacrificed. And will you hurry up? But you know, what I saw is that we are very old souls. We've been in this place for so long, going over and over and over and over it and over it and over it, and bringing it more and more and more and more into light from a very dark, dense space. And then this moment here, we've had this dark really rise up and say, hang on a minute, you're not going anywhere, and trying to hold on to us and keep us where we've been for eons. And what I knew for myself was that I needed to go through all the old that linked me into the pain of today. I had to move myself right through all of those times that I've lived in that state in my many, many lifetimes ever. And that's what's been the hard work for all of us, because we've all been doing that. We've had to travel way, 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 way back to get that cleared for now. So we've been on this bloody roller coaster of back and forth, going back into all that deep, deep wounding. And because it was so entrenched in us, we've had so much, many, many, many lifetimes in it. It was deeply entrenched. So yes, we've had huge things to deal with. And knowing, you know, for me, it was knowing that every time I moved something within myself and integrated it, you know, transmuted it, brought it into that light space and love, that was what I was doing also for her body, you know, Papa Tuanuku's body, Gaia.
Yes.
It was like, yes, I'm helping release that in her as well. And humanity. Huge.
So I think
we're exhausted.
But it is like we are literally embodying all of it. So we needed to clear all of it so that we could embody Mother Earth at the same time.
Yes, absolutely.
Become Mother Earth, and you know, so it's this. It's like the Red Sea is opening. You know, in the Bible story. You know, it's opening up.
Yeah.
And there's this whole new, all these infinite possibilities waiting for us.
So many. I was just yesterday feeling that, you know, and I mean, we know this, but the feeling and not trying to, but, you know, again, words, how do we get people to know and recognize this within themselves, that in each of these moments that we have, there is just infinite potential. And we get stuck in these, you know, structured thinking and belief, and it's really breaking out of that and having the courage to step out and be a bit different to others, you know, too, which is usually that's when you get the bullet, you know, it's like everyone finds that you if you're different. But
and sometimes you need to experience that, and then just to choose to go your own way. Because even if I look in Holland, like I don't know, I think that's in New Zealand the same, because I do sort of tend to keep an eye on what's happening on the spiritual side in New Zealand. It's like, for instance, all these tantra, ayahuasca, all these things, there's so much that you can do now to start exploring yourself. You know what I mean? In every way. And that's really great, because that wasn't there. I mean, it started in the 60s, of course, you know, but it's really sort of like, and all these communities with tiny houses and with food forests, and, you know, it's really exciting.
It is. Yeah. So much choice. And that's what I was also seeing, was how much matter had been created in from the thoughts that everyone was having. It's like all of a sudden you know, we've always created into matter. So we've done that all our lifetimes. But it got to a point in that 3 years where all of a sudden, wow, everything was just all here in matter. Everyone's idea and belief and created thought was now playing out physically on the planet. It was like, oh my goodness. And there was just this huge mix up of everything, so much chaos, so much going on, so much mental activity. And it all just sort of was like thrown up, and then you just had to, I had to just wait and let it settle, and then see where I could step that was safe enough for me to step and navigate my way through it. but man, it was just full on
Yeah.
with all
Yeah.
sorts, on all layers and in all the layers of the ether. You know, it was like, wow, it would be crazy.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. And also seeing the contrasts, you know, in
Yes.
people who think that way and people who think that way. People, you know, there's so much contrast
Yes, that
in
was what it
in
was. It
the
was
world.
like,
Yeah.
wow. It was,
Yeah.
it was crazy. But it's
Yeah.
settling and it's opening up into this beautiful, and the energy, like you say, is, you know, we were saying it's a beautiful energy, and it's definitely the divine feminine that
Yeah.
is just
Yeah.
holding us, supporting us now, and just
Yeah.
so lovely.
Oh,
Just wrapped in this, you know,
feel
yummy.
it. Oh,
It's beautiful. And I do
yeah.
feel for those who aren't feeling that, you know. I
Yeah.
see them around in town and walking around the streets, or, you know, hospitals or whatever it might be where I've gone, and it's like, wow, there's so many that are just have no concept of that, and they are struggling, and they are feeling such pain.
Yep.
And
And there are even people who don't, who say, for instance, are still living a 3D life,
yes,
who are just sort of like not aware of any of this that's happening, and
yeah,
are just still living their life. So there are, I think that everybody's in a different stage,
yes,
you know,
definitely, yeah,
and it's so many contrasts and so many timelines all happening at once.
totally,
But there is something going to happen from 2023.
yeah,
It's
for
already
sure.
started now, but there's big things coming.
There is, and
Yeah.
it's huge. It's big. I'm, you know, I know that we're not all going to have the same awareness of it or
Right.
feeling state in it,
Yeah.
you know, and I know there'll be some that'll feel like it's the end of the world, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who knows? But it'll be fun, and we, you know, to stay grounded, really connected with
Yeah.
nature. That's the key. Just
Yeah.
go and be with her wherever, however, even if it's like, people sometimes, when I say this to people, people sort of look at me and go, well, I don't live by a beach. I go and lay your back on the lawn, just on your
Yeah.
back garden, you
Yeah.
know, on the
Yeah.
grass in your
Yeah.
backyard or front yard. You don't need to go anywhere
Yeah.
else. Just stay
Or
there.
even sitting by a tree, because a tree is
Exactly.
so still and so in presence. And if you can
Yes,
connect with that still, because it's about stillness,
it
if
is.
you can connect with that, then you connect with your essence, with what you are, you know. So
Yeah.
that's growing. I mean,
Yes.
you said that before at the beginning of our conversation, is that the stillness, the silence is
Yeah,
becoming more palpable.
it
You know,
is.
it's growing, it's filling, it's so wonderful.
It
Yeah.
is. I know. I was a 20-minute birther, so mum woke up, my head was out,
Really?
and
Wow.
I birthed myself in that 20 minutes. From there, Dad was running her to the hospital, and she sat up on the gurney and watched me just birth myself. Apparently, that's how it went.
Wow.
And I know from that time, I just knew when I was told that by mum, I giggled, because I'm so gung-ho. It's like, yeah, we're here, let's do it, come on.
Yeah.
And there were times when I was really frustrated. It was like, why is nobody getting on? Why are they all still stuck in the stuff,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But, you
I
know,
think, have you ever heard of human design?
yes,
You're probably a manifester, no doubt.
absolutely. And I just get
ready
it.
to go. Yeah.
I am. And I know, you know, Spirit have had reins on me going, hang on, Mandy, it's not time yet.
Yeah. And
I just
that's
hang on.
pretty tough, you know, if you have all this energy, you know exactly what you want to do, you know where you want to go, and you've got to hold yourself back.
Yeah,
it's quite difficult.
it is. And
Frustrating.
totally that. And that, you know, that the one thing that just sort of calmed me down was this very woohoo. It was like, wow, okay. One day just said to me, this voice, how arrogant are you to think that you're the only energy in this universe? It's like, oh, okay then.
Yeah.
I get it. But
Yeah.
and I did calm the farm a bit then, so, you know, sort of got more, worked through patience, because I was not patient. It was like, you know, and I used to get a bit frustrated thinking that, like, I'd always see the soul wisdom within people, of course, you know, and then, well, why aren't you using this? Why are you choosing to still go there? And then that was like, none of your business, Mandy. Just
I've had exactly the same thing. Yeah, it's very what's the word for it? Well, if I look at myself, that there's oftentimes that I still suddenly awaken to, I'm right into my ego again. Okay, wake up. What are you doing? Projecting again? No, get the projection back again.
Yes.
You know, so it's you continually becoming more and more awake to when you're not authentic.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And it's like a little bit of a harsh awakening when you realize how, you know, arrogant really you're being, and self-judging and other things. But oh, they're good fun. I was talking with a guy from Sweden, a beautiful shaman from over there, and he was talking about ayahuasca, because there's a lot of the ayahuasca stuff going on at the moment. People seem to be doing psychedelics to get aware and awake. And he was saying about the journey, you know, I said, you know, do you want to share a journey with us? And the first time when he went in and he realized he was awake to his ego. And I went, oh no. It was like, oh, that can be like a real slap, can't it? He said, oh wow. You know, it was one of those. But it is like that. You sort of, you know, when you really start looking and connecting with self, and you realize just how your ego's been playing out, it's a huge awakener. You know,
well, even the fear, because I have to. I did it. I've done 3 ayahuasca ceremonies, and I have to say that I had really bad experiences, because there was so much fear inside me, and apparently it was just, I couldn't handle it. And it wasn't only the fear, but I felt I felt so much of other people that I completely like shut down. So the last time I did it, I only took a little bit, but what I did learn from it, but this is for everybody, it's different, and this was my learning experience, is that that I had a lot of control issues in myself. There was a lot of control, a lot of trying to control my own fear about death, or about losing control over my body. Right. You know, because when you take like a psychedelic or a plant medicine, you have to surrender.
You do.
And part of me didn't want to surrender, so that's why a lot of fear came up. But what I did realize is that I don't need personally to do this ayahuasca. And I've also done some mushroom ceremonies too, and that's a lot milder. And also I connect to the elementals through the mushrooms. But at a certain point, I felt, well, I don't need it anymore. They've been teachers to me. In the part, especially in the fear part, in the emotional part. And now I'm able to be my own teacher. Yes. And I think that's the path, because they're just like we are, they're guides, but it's not the purpose that people keep on going back and become hooked on these guides, because we have to find it in ourselves. We have all the answers in ourselves, and we are our own guide, our own leader. You know what I mean?
We are, absolutely. And the guides often are the aspect of us from a past life, another experience somewhere. It's all aspects of us. And that part there, a while back, a few years now, I don't even want to guess what type of year it was, but it was about 5-6 years ago, maybe even longer now. Gosh, it goes so fast. But guidance stepped back, and there was this huge, everyone was coming in, was going, oh my God, I don't know what's happened, but I feel really disconnected. I haven't got any guidance around it. And I'd sort of giggle going, I know it feels really uncomfortable. But what they're wanting is for you to take over now. And it was that whole thing. Don't ask us to go and, you know, balance your chakras. Do it yourself, you know. So it was like this push back into us. And And that was, I remember at that point, I remember feeling quite alone, because you get to rely on them being there and you're not feeling alone anymore. You know, it's all of that. You've got this connection, and then they just sort of back off. I really felt it. So I knew what we were experiencing.
I know. I had the same. And it was really, you felt really disconnected, right?
It did. Yeah. And alone.
I'm so glad that's not that I don't feel that anymore, because it was pretty lonely.
It was.
And it was really like, where are you? I mean, you've been with me so long, and now there's nothing.
Yeah.
It's like being on the telephone, and you can't hear anybody on the other side, you know.
That's right.
And you're talking, and
no, it wasn't comfortable. But I got it. It was good. And learning more about myself and taking more responsibility was exactly what we all needed to do. You know.
Yeah. And that's becoming a master, you know, taking back your own strengths and qualities, instead of, you know, looking for the authority outside of you, because there's nothing outside of us. We have learned that everything we need to find is outside of us, but it's not. It's inside of us. Everything. Yeah,
absolutely. I know I wasted a lot of years. Waste is probably not the word, but it took, you know, I was doing for a long time, looking outside of myself and talking to God. You know, thinking there's this great God in the sky somewhere that I need to talk to, because everyone else does. It was funny.
But at a certain point, you do click. You get sort of like all these signs or experiences, and then you start to realize, oh, it's not outside. It's in me. All these aspects are part of me, of who I am, which is infinite.
It is. It's great. I love the, you know, the fact that we can actually use it to create our world the way we really want to, like it. And I know people don't really get that, and I get that, but the magic that's there when we switch it on, you know, when we see and use it in the way that it's here for us to use, our guidance, our abilities, our radar, you know, all of it. And once you learn how to use it and navigate your way through, it's very easy, and it's cool fun.
Yeah, because you start seeing in the outside world, or you start perceiving that what you're sort of like creating within yourself, you start seeing it in the outside world. You start receiving all this love, and, you know, so there's, I think that the whole creator, you know, that we're becoming creators again, conscious creators.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's
bring it
part
on.
I've always loved. It's fun.
I mean, if you're a manifestor, I mean, that's exactly what you want to do, is create.
It is. Yeah. And it feels like now we're getting that opportunity. Things are moving out of the way that were blocking us a bit. And that's why I'm excited. It's like, right, what are we going to do? Fun. So yes, beautiful. If there was anything you'd like to leave the listeners and viewers with, Juliette, what would that be in the sense of our time now and forward?
Well, I think that the one thing that I have learnt, and I've gone through so much pain on my path, is to really try and be mild and gentle with yourself, and with all the parts that come up, even if there's a part that's a jealous part or an envious part or an angry part, just try not to judge yourself. Just recognize that it's wanting to be seen, and as soon as you acknowledge it, it can start to integrate, you know. And what's very important is that if you feel resistance, then just allow the resistance to be. Because the resistance is in everything. And being mild with resistance in yourself, and just being with it and allowing it, and especially acknowledging it. Acknowledging things is very important.
It is.
You know, And then everything can relax and start to integrate again and to change. So I think that's the main thing I wanted to say, is just be very loving and be kind to yourself, because you do deserve it, and you are worthy in every single way.
Beautiful.
Everybody is. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
And
it's what I'm seeing too is setting intention, just having an intention for something to go really well or peacefully or whatever. It just does. It's like it just smoothly sits in that space and allows that. It's gorgeous.
That's really important, choosing your intention.
Absolutely.
Wow.
It is. Well, thank you so much for coming, and I've really enjoyed this. It's been really lovely. And you've sent me some artwork that you you've sent me some artwork. So what we're going to do in the recording when we put that out is I'll put these paintings in there, and so people can view. And wow, great work. It's great work that you're doing.
Thank you so much, because I really enjoyed our chat. And it just sort of like, we talked about so many things, but it's all got to do with the same thing, of course. But thank you so much for inviting me and connecting, and just for the work that you're doing and everything that you're opening up in New Zealand and in other countries. You're going into the world, and I think that you're really helping people to connect. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. No, that's lovely. Thank you so much, and all the very best. Have a wonderful Christmas with your family and friends and everyone, and rock on 2023.
Oh yeah, definitely. You have a wonderful Christmas, and when I come to New Zealand, I will get in contact anyway.
Definitely do that, Juliette. I'd love that. That'd be lovely. Give you a big hug.
Thank you, Mandy, so much.
Welcome. Thank you. Lots of love. Bye-bye.
Bye.